Welcome! You made it! We're so glad you're here. Welcome to the California State University's first ever Graduation Initiative 2025 virtual convening for all 53,000 CSU staff, faculty, community partners, and colleagues across our nation. The time is now to celebrate the amazing work we do every day to support our students on their path to success. I can't think of a better way to start things off than to borrow from a long-held tradition of our Cal State Student Association leaders who begin their meetings with a dynamic campus roll call. To honor our student leaders, let's kick our program in the same way. So, let's see who we have in the house.
Go Runners!
Go Dolphins!
CHICO, Chico Chico, go Wildcats!
Go Toros!
In the East Bay!
Go Dogs!
Let's go Titans, test up!
Go Jacks!
Go Beach!
Go Golden Eagles!
Go Keel Haulers!
Go Waters, raft up!
Go Matadors!
Bless the Broncos!
Let's go Hornets. Stingers up.
Go Yotes!
Stay classy, San Diego. Go Gators!
Blue and gold present, Hail Spartans, hail!
Go Mustangs!
Stay true, bleed blue. Go Cougars!
Domination!
Go Warriors!
Oh! Thank you, students, and hello, everybody. I'm Catherine Irvin, teacher, leader, and theater arts professor, proudly representing Cal State San Bernardino, and I'm thrilled to serve as your MC for the largest gathering in CSU's history. And why are we here, you ask? Through Graduation Initiative 2025, the CSU community is pulling out all the stops to eliminate equity gaps and make sure that more students from all walks of life secure the lifelong benefits of a CSU degree. This year has been a challenge like no other, marked by loss, racial injustice, and economic uncertainty. It certainly hasn't been easy, but we've leaned on each other and carried forward with our trademark CSU spirit. Today, we're joining together to recognize and celebrate our remarkable work across the state, to hear the latest data on our progress, and to listen in on an exclusive chat between Chancellor Timothy White and Chancellor-select Joseph Castro. We may even hear a few surprises. Most important, you'll see striking examples that remind us that each one of us has the power to transform our students' lives, and the time to do so is now. With our world upended this year, we've been able to recognize what truly matters. We've been given the opportunity to rebuild the CSU in a way that creates a more equitable, educational experience for our students, and we've been inspired to create a healthier, more prosperous, and just society for all of us. In small ways, every day, you could be the one person who convinces a student to stay the course, hold on to their dreams, change our world for the better. I can share that I had a person like that in my life. While I was working from home and organizing, I found a note from my mentor, Martin Molson. He was a director who encouraged me as a very young performer, convinced me I could be successful as a Black female graduate student in a directing program. He coached me for the audition and interviews, helped me write the statement of purpose, wrote a letter of recommendation. Martin wrote letters to every actor in his shows. It was his way of shining a little spotlight on your work, saying, "I see you." The uplifting and supporting of students is a critical role that teachers play. I kept that note, and I kept the practice of writing notes to my own students in my own work. I thank Martin, And I thank all of you who harness the power within you to inspire and support others, especially our incredible CSU students. Now, to hear from someone who certainly knows and appreciates the special power each of us holds, Chancellor Tim White.
Thank you very much, Catherine. I love that story. And good morning, everyone. I am thrilled to welcome you to the largest virtual gathering in the history of the California State University. And if ever there was a time to bring together our entire CSU family, the time is now. It's safe to say never before have we experienced the confluence of events like those marking the year 2020. I won't list all of the challenges, both behind us and ahead. Instead, during today's program, let's pause for a moment and recognize the awesome power each of us has to transform our students' futures. And let's do more than that. Let's vow, starting right now, to look for every opportunity to put that power into action, just like Catherine's mentor did. Whether you are a faculty member, a student advisor, a financial aid expert, a campus electrician, or a campus president, this year, in our pivot to virtual delivery, you have demonstrated characteristic CSU grit. You've performed your critical work with tenacity and creativity and upheld our university's mission and purpose for the world to see. That purpose, our moral imperative and our unwavering focus, is to create a vibrant and welcoming space where any student, regardless of income, background, gender, race, ethnicity, or status, has the equal opportunity to earn the proven, lifelong benefits of a CSU degree. And our work has never been more urgent. This year has brought us a daily and indelible reminder of the disparities that continue to tarnish our great nation. Black and brown communities continue to suffer the disproportionate and brutal effects of racial injustice, economic uncertainty, and lesser health outcomes. It is no overstatement. These inequities can be a matter of life and death. While solutions are complex, one is clear and undeniable: the transformative power of higher education. By pressing on through the pandemic, reimagining our instruction and support of our students, and continuing to champion Graduation Initiative 2025, we are proving both our resolve and our ability to assure equity and opportunity, and to support students from all walks of life, not only in earning a diploma, but in achieving the lifetime of security, health, and prosperity that a diploma can bring. Allow me to share just one example from Cal State Long Beach. Rose, a music major in her final semester, had big plans last spring to graduate, to get married, to move into a new apartment and build her career teaching music to preschoolers. Instead, after her mother and siblings moved out of state and the pandemic hit, Rose found herself sleeping in her car. Struggling to meet her basic needs, she dropped 2 classes, but the burden was still overwhelming. I quote Rose, "I knew that it needed help, and I knew my journey at Long Beach wasn't going to end well if I didn't do something." Fortunately, the outreach conducted by the Campus Student Emergency Intervention and Wellness Program captured Rose's attention. Basic Needs Director Ken Kelly and his team quickly linked Rose with housing, meal assistance, and an emergency financial grant. She also received much-needed emergency funds from the CSU CARES program. She is now back on track to receive her music degree this fall. Said Rose, and I quote, "I didn't expect the school to come through like this in ways my own family could not." Indeed, our redoubled efforts in professional development to enhance online teaching and advising, in refining our operations across the university, and in supporting students like Rose are paying impressive dividends. This spring, despite a season of great upheaval, we celebrated the largest graduating class in our history of the university, awarding an all-time high of almost 110,000 baccalaureate degrees. And here's a spoiler alert: you'll hear even more good news on this front later in today's program. Each one of those graduates is now well positioned to excel in the workforce and to earn $1 million more in their lifetime versus a high school graduate. These CSU graduates will champion innovation, work to dismantle systemic racism, and expand best practices as our next generation of teachers, engineers, nurses, and architects. They will enrich the diversity of our workforce, develop solutions for climate change, and power the economic recovery of our state and our nation. Perhaps best of all, these graduates will pay it forward and inspire others to follow in their path, setting a pattern of upward mobility that will elevate future generations. And believe me when I say there are many others walking that path. This fall, we are educating the largest number of students in Cal State's history, nearly 486,000 students. This is a testament not only to the value and demand for a CSU degree, but also to the trust students have in our mission and our ability to transform their lives. As you know, these are my last few months as chancellor of this great university. In the years to come, as I look back on the year 2020, my focus will not be on the difficulties we faced. Instead, it will be on you. Your unrelenting optimism and adaptability, the awesome display of teamwork across our campuses, the power of the 23, and our collective determination to persevere for the benefit of each individual student and the communities we serve. Thank you for this most precious gift. And I will remember it as the year we place the legacy and the promise of Graduation Initiative 2025 into the capable hands of our Chancellor-Select, Dr. Joe Castro, who I know will guide the CSU to new heights. He, like you, understands that by boldly investing in the success of every student, we are investing in our nation's great promise. Indeed, the time is now, and I'm counting on you with confidence and with my enduring admiration and appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chancellor White. We will miss you, and we won't let you down. Most of us can see evidence of our daily efforts in the smile of a student that we've inspired, or perhaps in a big project that we finally completed. But how do we really know whether our work is making a difference? The answer? Data! Data allows us to see the big picture on our collective efforts to close equity gaps and improve graduation rates. Data pinpoints which programs we should build and grow, which students still need extra support, and even how the switch to virtual learning has affected the learning process. Here to reveal the latest student success data from this very unique year is Dr. Lauren Blanchard, the CSU's Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs.
Thank you very much, Catherine. And yes, I have my hands on the latest data, and I'm honored to be the first to share it with you, the people who made it possible. But before I share the numbers, I want to reinforce for you what these numbers actually represent, and that is our students. Every single digit in our degree count represents a person, someone's daughter or son, someone with a story, a struggle, and a dream for a better life, and someone who can pay it forward. I was certainly one of those numbers. I was born and raised in Lake Charles, Louisiana, to parents who didn't have much, didn't have the opportunity of a college education, but who gave everything to make sure that I did. With their help, I was fortunate to earn my degree at Xavier University of Louisiana and launched a career as a speech and language pathologist. But I knew I wanted more. I really wanted to study teaching and learning and how they connect to impact and inspire students, especially students of color. So I turned up on the doorstep of the University of Georgia to look into pursuing a doctoral degree in educational psychology. Fortunately, that day, I was connected with the absolute best advisor an inspiring student could hope for, an African American woman named Dr. Mary Frazier. Dr. Frazier told me that she would work to make sure I finished my degree in 3 years, but there would be some conditions. First, she wanted to make sure that I didn't start any long-term relationships that might interfere with my studies. Secondly, she wanted to make sure I would not leave Athens, Georgia, as I was working on my dissertation. I had to stay put. And third, and this was something of a head-scratcher, during my last quarter, she required that I move in with her family. This was her standard practice, she stated. Now, this seemed very odd and made zero sense to me, but I really wanted that degree, so I enrolled as the only African American male in my degree program within the university's College of Education. And as my final semester approached, sure enough, Dr. Frazier reminded me and another doctoral student that we had committed to moving in. From that day forward, Dr. Frazier saw to it that her husband cooked 3 square meals for us each day. She would go to campus during the day, and we would be given specific assignments to complete while she was gone. And when she got home, she would stay up with us until the wee hours of the morning, revising and reshaping our dissertations. Not only did I complete my degree in 3 years, thanks so much to Dr. Frazier, I learned firsthand what student support really means and just how transformative a caring culture can be. Every time I get the chance to tell this story, I do, because if it were not for Dr. Frazier, I would not be speaking with you today. Now, I certainly don't expect for you to cook for all of your students, but I do expect all of us to contribute to the CSU's culture of caring. Because 4 years into Graduation Initiative 2025, that culture of caring, your personal investment in our students is showing great returns. Despite the pandemic, this May, nearly 110,000 CSU students earned a bachelor's degree and joined the ranks of CSU's 3.8 million alumni. This record number of degrees represents 23,000 additional graduates in one academic year compared to 2015, the year before the initiative was launched. Of course, we credit this tremendous accomplishment to the perseverance of our students and the support of their families. But in many respects, we also owe it to you, the CSU faculty, staff, and administrators, and our community partners who have shown our students extraordinary care through unprecedented challenges. With that in mind, I am pleased to begin by sharing good news about our preliminary graduation rate data. The 4-year graduation rate for first-time students system-wide has increased to 31%, the highest rate in the history of the CSU. This represents undeniable and steady progress toward our 2025 goal of a 40% graduation rate. The 6-year graduation rate is 62%, which exceeds the national average for public 4-year universities. And several campuses are already meeting or have surpassed the system-wide 6-year goal of 70%. For transfer students, the 2-year graduation rate is 44%, again, the highest ever for the CSU, and a significant improvement since the beginning of our Graduation Initiative 2025 efforts. And the 4-year transfer student graduation rate is 79%, another all-time high. Before Graduation Initiative 2025, CSU transfer student completion rates were already among the highest in the nation. Yet with continued investment and a strategic focus, we've enhanced our care for transfer students, and those efforts have clearly paid off. A number of campuses continue to make good progress toward one of Graduation Initiative 2025's most ambitious and most important goals, eliminating equity gaps between historically underserved student populations and their peers. But as you'll see on the next 2 slides, we continue to have work to do to meet those goals system-wide. The graduation equity gap for Pell recipient students narrowed by 1 percentage point this year. and the gap now stands at 9.2 percentage points. And lastly, the gap for students who identify as African American, Native American, or Latinx also decreased slightly to 10.5 percentage points. As we enter the 5th year of Graduation Initiative 2025, the preliminary data show that we continue to make strong progress. The record high graduation rates are a testament to what we can achieve together. But when we look deeper into these numbers, we see that although completion rates for students from all walks of life continue to improve, the equity gaps are stubborn. And it will take sustained, intentional, and innovative action to achieve our goals of eliminating all gaps by the year 2025. Now more than ever, we must redouble our efforts to promote equity throughout the university and identify actions that are good for all students and have a disproportionately positive impact on first-generation students, students from low-income backgrounds, and students of color. This investment has never been more critical. The class that will determine whether we meet our 6-year graduation rate goals and our equity gap goals is already here. They're enrolled on our 23 campuses, attending classes, meeting with advisors, and joining student organizations. These students, like all of our students, deserve every opportunity to reach their academic goals and pursue their brightest future for themselves, their families, and for the state of California. And you can be the person who makes all the difference, like Mary Frazier was for me. Catherine, I turn it back over to you now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Blanchard. That is amazing news and definitely cause for celebration. The most exciting fact for me is that every percentage point increase in our graduation rate represents more than 1,000 additional students whose lives will be forever changed. That's 1,000 additional graduates who will enrich our communities with their skills, knowledge, and talents. One of those students, changing the world and leading us forward, is poet, artist, and recent San Francisco State graduate Cherokee White, who has already captivated me with her voice. I'm sure you'll agree. May I present Cherokee White in Dreams and Stars.
I try to close my eyes, but they can't rest. They can't unsee these sights, the death, the pain, the mess. I'm restless with this task of bringing you something upbeat as I watch protests in the street and the same picket lines and picket signs as old as time as history repeats, and it's hard. My mind feels barred. But you're an artist. Do what you do. We believe in you. So make us feel good while you're at it. And I'm like, whoa, slow down. I just found out my dreams were valid. I've only just heard others confirm my Black life matters, let alone my voice. It's hard finding peace above the noise, but I realize I've been presented with a choice. To hold back or share the place my head is in. But I gotta share, even if I'm not there, because this art right here is medicine. We like to call artists stars, but any human in craft is a constellation. People will use your light as a guide, and in their dark nights, you will offer consolation. We have to light up the dark in the evening, then gently step aside to invite the sun in the morning. Even if you're still in mourning, even if your tears are still pouring, your passion is the one piece of power you've been given. It's the one spark Zeus shared, so it's one you must dance and live in. And you don't know it yet. But the only thing that can keep us afloat will be your buoyant rhythm. Life is a rhythm, and you're its singing cries, you're its percussion, you're its beating heart, you're what it needs to survive. So I know you don't want to hear about how COVID won't let me hold my niece, or how caged immigrants can't hold their kids. I know it's hard to hear about how others are dying while we live, but it's not yet. So dream big while you're at it. And you may be just like me. You just found out your dreams are valid. And you may think, I don't know if I can. I didn't sign up for all this. You've got the wrong man. Have you seen my situation? I just want to get through where I am. But trust me when I say your dreams are the only chance reality stands.
Cherokee, it's such an honor to meet you via Zoom.
Thank
I
you.
was absolutely blown away by your video. It's your job to hear the world. Wow, you spoke not only to students following in your footsteps, but to all of us here today. So how did your experience at San Francisco State influence your art?
Oh man, in so many ways. So I credit the CSU system greatly with kind of helping me shape my value systems, especially at San Francisco State, where they were home to the first BSU, they were home to the first ethnic studies program. Their students spearheaded a lot of the protests in the 60s, around multiple different issues. And I minored in cultural anthropology and I majored in theater. So I constantly see myself pulling from all of those values, all of those theories, and just my fascination with culture and the human existence, and how do we as humans, like I said in the piece, hear the world, and how do we respond to other humans? How do we act on our human responsibility to feel empathy? And I pull it in lots of different ways. And in cultural anthropology, I really believe in using theater as a cultural tool. So for me, they were never really that different. I would tell people what my major and minor was, and they're like, "Aren't those really different?" And I was like, "I really don't think so at all." I really believe in using theater as a cultural tool, and cultural anthropology really helped me do that and shape my voice in doing that.
That is outstanding. Do you remember any one person who made a mark with their advice or support?
Oh man. I had lots of different teachers help me, but in different ways. So in the cultural anthropology department, I feel like Jeff Schomburg really did a great job instilling some of the fundamentals of anthropology, whether it was cultural or otherwise. In the theater department, Natasha, her last name is now Flores because she was married a few years ago. She gave me my first opportunity to stage manage, even though I was a freshman and that really wasn't done. And Bruce Avery, who pushed me as an artist multiple times, and Roy Comboy, who made me feel comfortable in my own skin when performing. So there's a lot of amazing staff and faculty who poured into me while I was there. And they made me feel like my voice had substance.
And your voice does have substance, absolutely.
Thank you.
Your advocacy for social change is right out front in your work. Why are you feeling like it's important to take action right now at this particular moment?
Yeah, oh my gosh, so we get asked that all the time in theater, right? Everything is why now, why now? And I think that's really fitting because that's the kind of center around the event about the time is now. And so for me, there's a quote by Nina Simone, and it's about how it's an artist's duty to reflect the times. And so I wanted to do that, but I also wanted to take it a step further and challenge us to dream up better ones. And so a big line in that is, I just found out that my dreams were valid. And part of that is from Lupita Nyong'o's speech when she won, I believe it was an Oscar, and she was that your dreams are valid. And that has stuck with me because for the long time, I did not feel like my dreams were valid. I really didn't know how to give my voice shape. I didn't know the direction that I wanted to go. So for me, my why now was, how do I reflect the times? How do I talk about this pain that I feel? I feel a lot of the times, when people ask me about my experiences, a big thing is keep it light. But sometimes it's hard to do that because there's so much that I'm dealing with that's heavy. And there's so much that my people in my community are dealing with that is heavy. And so I wanted to talk about that and reflect that and bring awareness to that, but also in a way that didn't stop in the pain, but that talked about adversity. Even though I still feel like a lot of times I'm still in a place of adversity, I wanted it to be a call to action that, you know, your dreams are needed and they're valid. And I know it's a weird time where you don't really know where you stand, but we need you. And whatever it is you're good at, it's a skill that can uplift somebody else. Your candle can light someone else's candle, so please do. You know, and I wanted to invite people to feel confident to do that in kind of a dreamlike way, because in showing the power of your dreams, I wanted it to be in kind of a dreamlike state, which is some of the visuals that you see there is kind of dreamlike for that reason.
And it is so clear in the piece, this idea that we must continue to dream big. Thank you so much for your work. You most definitely are an artist after my own heart. I really appreciate you coming in to have a chat with us, and I wish you a brilliant journey filled with success.
Thank you so much. That means so much. Thank you for having me, for giving me the chance to share. So I hope everyone takes something away and feels stronger because of it.
Thank you. Cherokee is so eloquent as she urges all of us to dream big and do our part to light up the dark. Next, you will learn about a group of inspiring CSU faculty members doing just that, dreaming big and taking action to close campus equity gaps and light the path to graduation for more students. Here, to celebrate the recipients of the CSU's 2020 Faculty Innovation and Leadership Awards and spotlight this year's winners, is my colleague and friend, Dr. Francesca Baer, professor, author, and director of the Jack H. Brown College Office of Academic Equity at Cal State San Bernardino. Take it away, Doctor.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, Professor Irwin. Had been so energized, I must say, this morning to hear all the wonderful stories of my colleague and hearing how they met those wonderful individuals that inspired them. And I was reflecting a little bit on my experience, and I had so many teachers, and honestly, some were excellent, some were good, some were average, but the key for me was those teachers, and many of them did that were positive and encouraging. When somebody said, you can make it, you can do it, that just made a difference for me. You know, the confidence that those teachers inspire always wanted to make me work harder and say, yes, that's right. That person believed in me. So that's really something important. So every year, we know that the CSU honor a small group of faculty, just like Professor Soto, right? With this prestigious Faculty Innovation and Leadership Award. Yeah. Honestly, we're filled with pride to be able to recognize them today and thank them for their leadership effort and improving all the outcome via this innovation practice. So what they have done, I think, is really paying off. So I would like you all to join me in recognizing this year as Team Award recipients. Congratulations to all of you. Congratulations. So it is inspiring, right? It is energizing, it is inspiring to be a part of this wonderful group. And I'm really, really inspired, in fact, by the passion and the dedication of our faculty. And I'm honored to be joined by one of this year amazing faculty innovation and leadership award recipient, one new fellow. Dr. Roberto Soto is an assistant professor of mathematics at Cal State Fullerton. Dr. Soto, welcome.
Thank you.
And welcome. And thanks so much for being here. So I have, my gosh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure and my honor. And I really mean that. This is wonderful.
Thank you.
So I have a couple of questions for you. So I'm just going to ask you the question and just give us the answer, because those questions really represent the philosophy, of what this award is all about, or what you brought to the table, and it's just wonderful.
Okay.
So just two questions. So the first question, as a first-generation college graduate, you share a background with many of our CSU students. How has this experience, right, impact your pedagogical practices, the way you provide access, the way you supported our students?
Okay, that's a really good question. So I usually start, for me, I remember being a first generation student, and sort of the most difficult part was finding community and finding answers. I didn't know, when I had a question, I didn't know who to turn to. My parents they were there to support me emotionally, but sometimes they didn't know who exactly I should go and turn and ask questions about. And I also remember being a little lost in the sense of, I'm not sure what I wanted to do with my career. I would love math, but what do you do with math? All I had seen was teachers at that point. So when I'm in my classroom and I'm thinking about my students and thinking about my first generation students in particular, I think about, how can I create an experience in the classroom where they feel supported? And so part of that to me means that we need to be actively engaged in the material and the content. And so one of the things I think about is, how can I get students to create community? How do I get them to work together? And so active learning is a big part of this. Students need to work together to solve problems. But then there is the second part, is what kind of problems are they solving? Well, if I want them to know what they can do with math or science, and the problems have to be relevant. The problems need to be something that sort of mimics or is close to research as possible. Otherwise, you can come out of a calculus class still thinking, so what do I use that for? How is that going to help me in my career? So I think there are two parts to it. There has to be good, solid content. But the second part, there needs to be good, active learning. Students need to engage with the material. They need to engage with each other, and they need to engage with me. And so as I think about my pedagogical practices, I think about that. How can I make my classroom a more welcoming environment? And then what does success mean for me, for the students, is that I think one thing I wish I had was choices. I felt I love being a high school teacher, but I felt I was pigeonholed. This is what you're going to do with math. So as I think about my students and what does it mean for them to be successful, I think what it means to me is that they have, choices when they're finished, that they can do what they want to do and not feel like they only have one career choice at the end of their journey with us. And so those are the things I think about as a former first generation student myself, and in hopes of supporting our students as they go on to success.
Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. One more question. You're teaching mathematics and calculus, right? And when students hear calculus by itself, it means, this is going to be very, very difficult. So you have developed some very robust faculty professional development workshop, right?
Right.
That in fact have been working very well in producing very good outcome. So what is the secret sauce or the secret recipe? What can you tell others, right, to help others, in fact, being as successful as you have been, especially as they teach mathematics?
Okay. Well, secret, I always tell people it's not as secret as you think, but I think part of the reason we're being successful at Cal State Fullerton is that I'm actually sort of relatively new. It's only my 6th year. But we came into a community here at Cal State Fullerton, the math department, that's very supportive and is always trying new things, always trying to figure out a way to have students learn. You know, we were one of the first departments to do supplemental instruction. We were one of the first departments to flip courses in our community. And so this idea of innovation seems to permeate through the whole department. And I think when we came in, it sort of motivated us to try things. We felt like we were allowed to try things. And I think having that community was very special. And so when Dr. Mirzaki is my colleague, she and I have developed these professional development workshops. It's not just myself, but when we worked on this, we had both been high school teachers, and we both remembered workshops where you were lectured at about learning actively. And so the first thing that we decided is that we were going to approach learning the way we approach all learning, the way we approach learning math. So like I said earlier, students need to engage with the material, they need to engage with each other, they need to engage with the instructor, because that's how learning happens. You know, this is the ideas behind learning. So when we want to do something with professional development, we want to instruct our faculty to engage with active learning by actively learning. So our workshops involve them. We mimic a lot of the strategies we use in our classrooms. We have them do the things we have our students do. But then, in addition to that, we form this community because they have to engage with each other. And what we end up doing is follow-ups to our workshops where we talk about what did we try? Because just like in math, you don't learn math if you don't do math. You have to do math to learn it. Same thing with teaching actively or teaching when you want student-centered instruction, you need to try it. And just like in math, it may not go well the first time, and you may struggle a little bit. That's part of the process. That's okay. That's how we learn. And so to create a community to allow us to be able to practice, to talk to each other and see if we can find any solutions. I think that's been, and I don't call it secret because to me, that's actually in the literature. That's how we learn. And so we're just trying to implement the best practices for learning, not just for our students, but for our faculty as well.
Thank you, and congratulations. Oh, hold on, I'm hearing something. We have a special guest that is joining our conversation. So welcome, special guest, right? And the guest is one of your former students. And that guest is also, a current graduate student in mathematics.
Surprise.
In Monroe University. So can you guess? I think you can, right?
Robert.
Welcome, Roberto Hernandez. Welcome, Roberto. Thank you for joining us in honoring Dr. Soto.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Good. So, Dr. Hernandez, would you, not yet, but close to, right? Yes, definitely. So, Roberto Hernandez, will you just say a couple of words about you professor?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's really been have met you, Dr. Soto. I mean, I remember freshman year when I took your calculus class. And not knowing anyone and feeling like you were the only person I can go and talk to because I had no other friends. And sometimes I remember when we would just hang out and just not even talk about math in your office. And even after that class ended, I told you I would I'd see you again. And I think I kept the promise.
You did.
Because every year I would just show up in your office every other day. And we just kept going, and you actually changed my life. You helped me get to where I am here, and it's not just me. You know, there's a large collection of people who you've helped just like I have, and I just wanted to say how grateful I am and how grateful all of us are that you came into our life and made such a big difference.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel so lucky to have had you, Roberto, Robert, and all the rest of your classmates. It was an honor for me to teach you all. I think you represent what's really great about teaching at Cal State Fullerton, at any of the Cal States. Just the students that want to learn, students that want to know. And I mean, you were a hard worker from the beginning, and so were your peers. So thank you again. It was an honor to be your professor. So thanks. You're gonna make me cry.
That's actually what I thought was gonna happen to me, but I you always said that the math was gonna make me cry one day, and it hasn't yet. But I think it's like the emotions shared with the people you connect with the most that kind of get me closer there.
Thank you, Roberto. Thank you, Roberto.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Soto, and thank you very, very much, Roberto.
Yeah.
You know, there is, across the 23 campuses, countless stories, right, about professor and student that have been inspired, that we have lead to success. So it really made me very, very happy to just be able to talk with both of you. And hopefully we are going to continue to just inspire and energize, right, our student and our colleague. So thank you again. And Professor Irwin, wasn't this a fantastic conversation?
That was fun. Thank you very much, Dr. Bear, and congratulations to our amazing FILA award winners and to all CSU faculty who play such an essential role in fostering student success in and out of the classroom. It's obvious from his surprise guest that Dr. Soto has forged a great connection with his students, taking the time to know them and help them build not only math skills, but confidence. This personal connection has never been more important than now, as we support our students through the global health crisis and our nation's reckoning with racial injustice. Across the CSU, we're working hard in very creative ways to make sure students stay connected to campus and have access to all the support they need to thrive. When you registered for this gathering, we asked you for one word that comes to mind when you think of student success. Production team, can you please bring up the word cloud that contains our collective thoughts? One of the first words I see is hope, which is perfect. I also see opportunity as a popular response, as is empowerment. I love that one. And of course, equity, which is what we strive to achieve. I have to say, reviewing your comments makes me so proud to be in community with you as we together support our students. One shining example that hits them all is Cal State LA. Like many campuses across the CSU, Cal State LA has made a dramatic pivot to better support its students. This 4-minute clip provides an overview of how the campus has rewired its student support services to foster success in these most challenging times. Can we see the clip, please?
At Cal State LA, we've been working hard on GI 2025 for the last several years. These unprecedented times disrupted our traditional ways of working. We had to redouble our efforts to maintain steady improvement in retention and graduation rates and the reduction in equity gaps.
We were planning to take our work to the next level by building a new Center for Academic Success. It would be a one-stop shop where students could get personalized attention and be referred to someone who could immediately help them. An advisor, a tutor, an academic coach, or even a faculty member holding office hours.
And then the pandemic hit and everything changed. We were suddenly confronted with an unprecedented challenge, being scattered across Los Angeles and many of us with limited access to technology and bandwidth. We were worried that our students would be unable to connect with advisors. So we purchased thousands of laptops and hotspots for students in need.
Research shows that students who establish meaningful connections with at least one person on campus are more likely to remain in college. So during the pandemic, relationships became even more important. We realized that we needed to reimagine advising and student support services, remove more administrative barriers, and use our technology to rewire the way we work to place relationships front and center. We accelerated our shift to proactive advising.
Within 2 weeks, all of our advisors, academic coaches, tutors, and peer-led study groups had moved to Zoom. We focused on helping our students build relationships and stay connected.
We became more intentional about our communications. We sent students emails, followed up with additional emails, phone calls, and most recently, text messages. We made it easier for our students to set up appointments with our EAB advising system. And for the first time, every first-year student will have their own advisor.
At the end of spring term, our scheduled advising appointments were 12% higher than they were at the same time last year, and our communications were up over 450%.
This summer, we moved orientation online and encouraged advisors to build online relationships and connections like never before. Every student had a small group advising session before they registered for classes. We invited all new students to a remote learning experience in Canvas. They learned how to submit assignments and how to prepare for class, and they met other first-year students.
We continue to bridge advising with academic support. Some of our students were unable to take advantage of our services because they were working or taking care of children and siblings at home. We realized that we needed to meet our students where they were at. So we provided evening and weekend tutoring and coaching sessions, and we also provided online webinars on topics related to student success. We are reaching more students and becoming more personal at the same time.
Our students benefited from the changes that we implemented. Students may not be on campus, but they are back in class. Our first-year retention rates are higher this year than last. Our graduation rates have continued to climb, and we reduced our equity gap despite COVID-19.
Amazing. Those numbers speak for themselves. Awesome job, Cal State LA. Thank you for giving us such a great example of innovation and teamwork, not to mention ideas we can all use in the future. And speaking of the future, we are in for a treat. I would now like to bring Chancellor White back to the spotlight for an exclusive chat with Chancellor-select Dr. Joseph I. Castro on student success, the future direction of Graduation Initiative 2025, and a few other topics. Gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Catherine, and good morning, everyone. In keeping with the Convening's theme, the time is now for our Chancellor to Chancellor chat. I'm happy to be joined by Chancellor-select Dr. Joseph Castro. Joe, I'm told we're supposed to consider this as an informal conversation between the two of us, with 53,000 of our closest friends listening in. You know, Joe, I've been watching with admiration. You've been swept up in a whirlwind of meet and greets with media and business leaders and elected officials ever since you were appointed about a month ago as the 8th Chancellor of the California State University. So I'm happy to have this chance to sit down and catch up a little bit. And I know I speak for everyone when I say I could not be more delighted with the trustees' selection and with capable hands, heart, and mind that you will bring to this job and guide the Cal State University forward in the years ahead. Now, one thing I need to point out to you, Joe, is that particularly in the summer and fall, in the evenings, it's much cooler in Long Beach than it is in Fresno. So I have for you this beautiful branded Cal State University sweatshirt that I'm going to give to you as a mark of my friendship and my hope that it keeps you warm in those chilly days and nights when you move to Long Beach. So here you go, Joe.
Tim, thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to wearing this in January when I get to Long Beach, and maybe we'll take a walk together along the ocean. Thank you.
I look forward to that, Joe. Absolutely do. And speaking of our Cal State community, they've all been invited to today's discussion, and I'm told they have some questions for you, and I have a couple of my own, and perhaps you even have one or two for me. So you ready? Can we get started?
Yeah, let's get started.
Well, ever since I've known you, Joe, it's clear that you have a strategic vision, sort of an astute insight into the issues that confront our students and their ability to access and to succeed and complete their degrees in universities, whether it's here in the Cal State universities or during our shared time together in the University of California. So where did this notion of insight, strategic vision, and the deep down desire that we share about student success, where did that come from in your case?
thanks, Tim. I think it comes from my own experience as a first generation of college student and trying to navigate a higher education system that I really didn't understand initially. And at the same time, just experiencing the transformation that occurred once I got the hang of it, and my feeling that more people needed to experience that transformation of a university education. And I remember some of our early conversations after I began here working with you, Tim. There was still some debate about access and success, and some people were saying, well, you can't have success without access. And I've really appreciated your leadership in saying the CSU is about inclusive excellence. It's about access and success. And that's really been empowering for me as a president serving alongside you here in the CSU.
Yeah, well, thanks, Joe. You know, it's interesting that back in the day, everybody did focus on access. And I think we did change the conversation, not only here, but nationally, that it's about completion.
Yes.
And you can't have completion if you don't have access. And you can't have completion if you don't have high quality learning environments. And you can't have completion and if the support isn't there. The challenge from our faculty, but also the support of our faculty and support staff, academic support, financial support, in order to get to that all-important degree of completion. You know, we've heard stories this morning, heartwarming stories of individual faculty and staff and their journeys and so forth, and how it was for them. What about for you, Joe? Is there any specific person or moment along the way that you look back now as you finish up your presidency at Fresno and become the chancellor of the largest four-year university in America? Is there anything you reflect back on of a person or a moment that was transformative? You may not have known it at the time, but as you look back, you kind of go, you know, that one was pivotal.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've benefited from mentorship, you know, from so many different people, men and women of all different backgrounds, and trying to decide on one, it's difficult, but I'll give you one example because I still am in close touch with him today. His name's Frank Aguilera, and Frank grew up in the San Joaquin Valley just like I did, and he was at UC Berkeley when I was a student. He quit his job as a successful banker to be the director of this nonprofit organization, and they owned this house where I lived as a student for the first 3 years. And it was a theme house, a multicultural theme house, and included lots of first generation students. But meeting him, seeing that he had accomplished something that I wanted to accomplish, he had a Berkeley degree, he was from the Central Valley. We really understood each other, and he helped me in so many ways initially. And then later on, we became roommates when I was in graduate school, and we've stayed in close touch. I hear from him almost every single day. And I'm really grateful for him because I would not have been able to navigate my first, 4 years at Berkeley without a friend like him, a mentor like him.
Well, I'm glad Frank entered your life and that you're still connected with him.
Absolutely.
You know, it probably is a master of understatement. We're in a transformational time in this country, a turbulent time, with so many issues all coming together at once, from the pandemic, from a health and economic point of view, to the issues of social justice and racial injustice in so many parts of America, the issues of climate change, political changes in the air. What does all of that confluence that's happening here in the year 2020 mean for how you might approach your leadership starting in January of 2021 of the Cal State University?
It's a great question, Tim. I believe the CSU is the most consequential public university system in the country. I think it has been for a long time, and with COVID, even more consequential than ever before because of the diverse students that we serve and our track record in supporting them. And my hope is to continue the great work that you've led over the last 8 years, and to get us to those bold GI 2025 goals that we've set, and then to set some bigger ones for after 2025, because I think that we have what I would call a high ceiling. I think we have a lot of potential to rise, and California needs us to succeed. So I really want to continue to inspire our elected officials and private philanthropists to invest more in the CSU so that we can educate and empower more students here in California, and they can become leaders for this state and the country and beyond.
Yeah, Joe, I like the notion of a high ceiling. I probably also like the notion of a convertible, that there is no ceiling.
That's right. I like that.
Yeah. And while we've made progress on eliminating the opportunity gap, the equity gap that exists among our students, we haven't achieved it yet. And even though we launched that several years ago, I just hope that the relentless focus on getting rid of that unconscionable gap remains a driving force for the CSU, because when we reach that goal, we will have changed so many lives and inspired so many other universities across America to do the same, that over time it'll make the huge difference in the quality of life across these United States.
Absolutely. Tim, it's been an honor to serve alongside of you and experience this progress that we've made together. I wanted to ask about your 40 years of service in higher education, and is this the trajectory that you thought? From that Volkswagen. Remember, you told me sleeping in the Volkswagen here in Fresno, in a neighborhood near the campus, to now being the chancellor of the CSU. Is this what you thought might occur in your life?
No, Joe, it's been a very remarkable career, and I owe so much of this to sort of the decisions that people made along the way, including my parents' decisions to flee Juan Perón in Argentina and bring myself and my brother to Canada and then ultimately to the United States. I thank public education in California. I started in second grade when I got to the Bay Area, and finished up with a PhD at Berkeley after getting my bachelor's degree from Fresno State and my master's of science from East Bay. All of those experiences led to opening doors. I started out thinking I wanted to be a high school teacher and a swimming and water polo coach. And in fact, I did that. I coached age group. I coached with Pete Catino. I was assistant coach at Cal in the 70s when we won the NC2A. We were pretty good. But then I got interested in science and decided I was going to become a scientist, and then went and did a postdoc at the University of Michigan, and which turned into a faculty career there over 15 or 16 years. And Berkeley invited me back. And all of these opportunities along the way came because people challenged and supported me and saw something in me that I didn't see at the moment in myself, but gave me every opportunity to do that. Coupled with, I think I'm, always curious and optimistic to a fault sometimes, and a strong work ethic, I think, to try and take the best advantage of what is in front of me, regardless of where that's going to lead. And along the way, I learned that giving to others, helping create, whether it was in my lab, a grad student or a postdoc or an undergraduate student in my courses, to ultimately helping entry-level faculty and others succeed with anything that I might be able to offer or help them with. And so I think that's the trajectory that emerged, but it wasn't the plan 40 plus years ago. It's something I look back and I can thread everything together now, but I certainly could not have predicted. And to be honest, I am so grateful to not only the Regents of the University of California for allowing me to be chancellor of the Riverside campus for about 5 years, but also to the trustees of the California State University for allowing me to be chancellor of this system that was so instrumental in lifting and launching me back when I was a kid in the 1960s and 70s.
It's a great story, Tim. it's been an honor to see part of that story play out, and it's inspirational for all of us who served with you. And I know I'll speak on my own behalf that you've energized and inspired me to be a better leader, and I really appreciate that.
That's very kind, Joe. Thank you. We could keep going all day because I've got some stories I want everybody to know about you, but maybe they're best that I keep to myself. And I do know that there's some others who'd like to ask some questions, so let's turn it to some of our guests.
Hi, I'm Michelle Power, President of the CSU Alumni Council, and it's a pleasure to join you this morning. The Alumni Council looks forward to working with you. Dr. Castro, as you know, the CSU has close to 4 million alumni, making us one of the largest alumni networks in the world. What are your priorities for engaging alumni to support the university and, in particular, support student success?
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate the great question. And I'm excited to work with the 3.8 million plus CSU alumni to elevate the CSU in the coming years. And I think there are many different ways alumni can be involved, and I know are already involved, whether it's mentoring a student, sponsoring a scholarship or an internship, advocating for us in Sacramento and Washington on issues that are really important to the university, and just providing essential advice to us about how we're doing in serving our communities. And I want to make sure that your degrees are more valuable over time. And I want to work closely with all of you to really lift up the university, the CSU, make sure that we achieve our GI 2025 goals, and that we receive the support from Sacramento and Washington, D.C. that I think will enable us to return on that investment in powerful ways.
Hi, Chancellor White and Chancellor Select Castro. I'm Yasmin, a Communication Studies major from Cal State Northridge. Thank you so much for including me in today's meeting. My question is about addressing students' basic needs. As you know, too many of our students are dealing with housing and food insecurity and confronting mental health challenges. How can the CSU better support students' basic needs and help them thrive in these challenging times?
Thank you, Jasmine. I appreciate that question. Basic needs is such an important area for the CSU, and the Chancellor and I actually have some experience in this area personally as well as professionally. And I remember on one of his first visits to Fresno State, after I became president, we had launched a successful program called our Student Cupboard, which was our food pantry. And we also started an initiative that was called the Catered Cupboard, and it involved providing food from events for hungry students. And I remember asking him if it was okay if I used that Catered Cupboard the evening of our event with him, and he was very gracious and saying yes. And we pushed the button, and all of a sudden, something like 50 students appeared and ate a late dinner with the Chancellor and me, and they loved seeing him. And I remember the Chancellor also visited the cupboard with my wife, Mary, and we showed him what we were doing. And I think that he was proud of what we were doing, and maybe even borrowed some of those ideas as he talked with other campuses. But I think that we have much more important work ahead. And when I get to the job in January, I'd like to dig in and understand even better what's happening across the system and do whatever I can to support campuses so that we can strengthen our basic needs programs, as I know that the needs have increased significantly during COVID. And we need to try our best to address those needs and remove barriers so that our students can be successful. I don't know, Chancellor, do you want to add to any of that?
Well, first I want to thank Yasmin for the important question, and Joe, well said on the answer. I I do remember leaving the library and this influx of students coming in, and they cleaned the place out, and we had great conversations. I do think, this issue isn't going away anytime soon, and as you point out, with the COVID-induced changes in society has even accentuated the needs here. But it's so large that we're going to have to make sure that we also partner with community agencies and friends in order to share the burden to help our students and, quite frankly, some of our employees succeed in this time. And so I think part of the solution will be expanding those partnerships with CalFresh and other areas that we might be able to do. But Yasmin, you probably don't know this, but it must have been 5 or 6 years ago where I commissioned the first study of the issue of basic needs out of my office with faculty members at Cal State Long Beach and Humboldt. And that was the first national, we'd heard about the issues anecdotally, we'd seen them anecdotally. This was the first attempt to try and quantify the issues around food insecurity and housing insecurity. And from that study, then some publications came out, but it really sort of stimulated a national conversation and certainly an awareness here in California of how big this issue is and how important it is for our students to be able to be secure when they're studying so they can earn their degree sooner rather than later. And to be candid and a bit personal, when I was a student at Fresno State, started in 1967, I came from community college and graduated from Fresno in 1970. I was on food stamps and I was in county assisted housing. And so we didn't call it basic needs back then. It was clear that because of my personal circumstance, that I needed a helping hand from the community in order to stay in school and finish my degree on time. And so when I think back to those early days, it's one of the reasons why I've been, at a personal level as well as professional, really interested in doing everything we can, turn every stone to support our students who have issues in the basic needs area. Thank you again, Yasmin. Joe, I think we have time for just one more question this morning.
Okay.
Hang on, Joe. Hello? There's somebody at my door. Oh, it's a special guest. Huh? Okay, I have a special guest, Joe.
You do?
Yep. Someone who has a question, they just slipped me the note about the role of family in promoting a student's success. Joe, look, you can run, but you can never hide from your loving mother. Miss Anne-Marie Mendez, please step in our room.
Hello.
Hello, Mom.
Hi, how are you doing, honey?
Well, thanks for surprising us.
Yeah. Yes, how are you doing? Good?
Yep.
Great.
You have a hard question for me?
Yeah, it's real hard. Yes, I'm Joe's mother, of course, and this kind of pertains to like when my son went to Berkeley, he was 17, and it was hard letting him go. But anyway, I wasn't. My question, what role do parents and families play in helping college students to succeed and letting them go?
That's a great question, Mom. Thank you for your courage, and thank you for letting me go and supporting me.
It was hard.
A brief story about my mother. When we first went to UC Berkeley, we were all pretty nervous about it, and I went to take a writing exam, and she and my grandparents and I think my sister kind of hung around Sproul Plaza and Telegraph, and I remember coming out of my exam and they had already discovered Blondie's Pizza and all kinds of other stuff. And
Yes.
I think that after that experience, they felt a little bit better that I was there. And she even spent the night in the dorms during the orientation with another mother. I remember they paired you up with another mother there. But Mom, as you know, the love and support that parents provide is essential. And that's what you gave to me. And I'm thankful for that. And what I'd say is that's the foundation that we want for every student. And then for those who come from families that have not yet experienced higher education, then there'll be other people. You know, I mentioned Frank Aguilera and lots of other friends that students can, get support from. But having that parental support, that love and care made a huge difference for me. And I know it makes a huge difference for the students here at Fresno State and across the CSU. And I'm hopeful as Chancellor that I can build on the work that Chancellor White's done and really connect with those parents and make sure that they have the information that they and their students need so that the students can be successful. And Mom, you're there living with one of our honors college students, and you're helping to get through. So you're doing that very well. So I want to commend you for that. And you not only helped me and my sister April, who has 2 degrees from here, but now you have a granddaughter who's going to get a Fresno State degree here in a few years.
Yep.
Thank you for being with us.
Sure, honey. Okay. That was very nice. I enjoyed this.
Well, thanks, Anne Marie, for making the trek down and coming into our room.
Okay.
I don't know. I hope you also went to Top Dog on Durant when you were at Berkeley, because that's the best place for hot dogs in the world.
Well, we were all over. I loved it over there.
To the two of you, what a poignant finish to our conversation today. And, it makes me think and reflect a bit, Joe, that not all of our students have parents.
True.
Some are parents themselves.
That's right.
Some have lost their parents along the way. Some are foster youth or from families where the parents are no longer follow their kids. And one of the things that I think is so characteristic of and you've heard me talk about changing our name from California State University to Compassion State University, the Care State Universities, is to make sure that we as professionals at every level of the institution take care of each student and meet them in their place. And for those that don't have family and parents around them, how do we become the surrogates that give that same love, support, encouragement, and guidance that your mom gave you and my parents gave me? So it's a big task in front of us. And Anne Marie, you've obviously used your strength and your influence and the values that you did in raising Joe and letting him spread his wings at age 17 to leave the Valley and go to the Bay Area. That was tough. I get it. But now your son is in a position to help literally hundreds of thousands of students succeed in ways that they might not otherwise be able to succeed. And I know you must be
Yes, I am.
Yeah,
we all are. Families, all proud of him.
Great. And Joe, before we finish up, I want to thank you for the folks, the silent thousands that are out there for today's discussion and for taking the time to sit down and reflect a little bit about the past, but also set a course forward that continues to let the GI 2025 and its successor in the years ahead continue to be a singular focus and a point of pride for the California State University. And to all that are listening, there's no greater champion of student success than Joe Castro, somebody who I know will continue to keep us focused on this very important endeavor, and therefore make sure our esteemed university is even better recognized for its contributions to a better America. With that, Catherine, I turn it back to you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And Chancellor White, you're not off the hook yet. We still have you for 2 more months. As Chancellor White and Chancellor-select Castro mentioned, all of us, staff, faculty, administrators, campus partners, and certainly family and friends, play such an important role to ensure that our students have a valuable experience as they grace our campuses and move on in their lives to pay it forward. The CSU has been so fortunate to count on strong community partnerships across this great state. The generous support of philanthropic organizations, such as the College Futures Foundation, helps to harness the power of all 23 CSU campuses and synergize our student success efforts. In recognition of our remarkable philanthropic partnerships, I am thrilled to welcome Ms. Monica Lozano, President of the College Futures Foundation, who is here to provide a statewide perspective about the value of Graduation Initiative 2025 and the California State University. Ms. Lozano, welcome.
Thank you, Professor Irvin. President Castro, that was so moving to see you with your mother. I know that when we talked earlier in the month, you shared how much her support and her belief in you allowed you to reach for the stars. And here you are, Chancellor-select of the largest public state university system in the nation. I want to begin by acknowledging Chancellor White and his extraordinary leadership over these past 8 years. Tim and I have partnered closely on many projects, and he has always led from a place of deeply held values, paired with an unwavering commitment to diversity, to equity, to social mobility. From the appointment of campus presidents to his focus on diversifying the ranks of the faculty and staff, to providing holistic student supports, especially for low-income, first-generation, and students of color, so that they get the resources they need to be successful. To the GI 25, with its audacious goals to increase graduation rates for all and to close the degree attainment gap. Because of College Futures Foundation, I have had the privilege of working directly with the CSU Systems Office, of partnering with campus leadership, including many presidents and administrators, with faculty and staff who work every day to deliver on the promise of the CSU Graduation Initiative 2025. GI 25 is not just aspirational, it is affirmational. It is a roadmap linking higher education to an inclusive economy, to opportunity and prosperity for individuals, families, and communities. A CSU degree means more today than ever. It means social mobility and increased earning power for individuals and their families. It means economic vitality for communities. It means a workforce equipped to succeed in the knowledge economy of the 21st century. It means a more robust democracy for all of us. This is a unique moment for the CSU to continue to set an agenda, one that ignites our collective imagination about California's future. And yes, while these are challenging times, they also inspire and require us to embrace bold ideas, creative innovations, and solutions that promote student success. Now is the time. We must rise and meet what this unique moment demands of us with a sense of optimism and hope about where it can lead us. Now is the time. So on behalf of students, on behalf of our collective well-being, the goals of the Graduation Initiative are exemplary. Let's work hard. Let's work hard together to make them a reality. We look forward to continuing this partnership. And now let me turn it back over to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Ms. Lozano, for your wonderful remarks. Thank you also to all of our presenters and awardees today for making this such an inspiring event. In every corner of our state, I hope you can see that the CSU family is forever connected through our good work. From our dining room tables, through Zoom sessions, even as we care for our own families, we continue to transform the lives of our students, both one by one and in record-breaking numbers. And in doing so, we are creating a better, more equitable world. Your work matters. And yet, we can always do more. Even at times when it feels overwhelming, we can always support each other in doing better. For our campuses, and most important for our students, the time is now. Thank you for being a part of the CSU family and helping carry forward our important mission and light up the dark. What will you do next? Whose life will you change?